guide, John Losey, as we explore how we can be present and kind as we go about doing great things in this world. And today I'm talking with Jessica Yarbrough, who is a marketing consultant, and also she helps build expert businesses. So coaching and consulting businesses, she really helps people get a start on that. A degree in marketing from San Diego State, and then involved in several growing positions in the marketing world until she started her own stuff. But I don't want to steal her thunder. I want to hear from Jessica herself on Jessica, what's your origin story? How did you get to here? Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't know if we have time to talk about the whole story, but I will give you the Reader's Digest version, because what you see on LinkedIn, there's some gaps there. My background was in marketing. I managed companies very young, multiple companies. Ended up building a startup here in San Diego, which was my dream company. And I got burnt out because, I've been working since I was 16, and I needed to experience the world and kind of go on this really soul journey, spiritual journey. So I sold all my belongings, gave up my shares in the company, and bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. And I spent about 4 years really traveling the world, diving deep into spirituality, self-care. I ended up picking up consulting work as well along the way, ironically. And when I got pregnant with my daughter, I realized, Jessica, it's time to go back to work, if you will. And I started my own consulting company. I didn't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I knew I could have gotten a job in, a high-level marketing job, but it just wasn't for me. Not once I had that taste of freedom. And so I just started taking whichever consulting work I could get, including, really bottom of the barrel prices just to make ends meet, and held the vision of building a really successful consulting company and rolled up my sleeves and did whatever it took to make it happen. And, as I grew, I had so many people coming to me asking me if I could teach them what I was doing. So, wow, we've watched your journey, Jessica. Can you teach us? And that's when I decided to kind of move away from the done-for-you marketing world where I was behind the scenes and step more into the role of the teacher and start to map out my own training programs to show people the shortcuts to avoid the mistakes that I had made along the way.
Okay, so I'm curious about the role of travel in all that. You're selling everything and going to Thailand.
Yes.
How did that impact the way that you're doing business now? Because you said you had to get back to it.
Yes.
To doing the business, but how does that experience impact what you do right now?
It changed everything. So, I think I was just on this mission. I wanted to accomplish things before. I wanted to build this company. I had my life really laid out. But when I went on a vacation, I realized with a friend of mine, I realized that there was another way. And my ability to travel really opened my eyes into how we're all connected. It opened my eyes into how there's many different people living different ways. It was when I first saw people working on their laptop before digital nomad was popular. I mean, I was doing that in Chiang Mai in Thailand. Now it's like an epicenter for it. It was just a different way of being where it's like, what, I can create my rules. I decide how I want to live, and I'm not going to be limited to 2 weeks vacation. As you know, I just got back from Mexico. We go on a trip pretty much every quarter. And also I didn't want to have to work my way up a ladder and have a cap on my income. It's just, wow, the sense of freedom that opens. I can create anything that I want. So that was part of it. And also just the journey of spirituality, the journey of kindness and love and honoring each other as human beings really shifted my perspective and helped me to, when I created my company, draw in such a high caliber of clients that it's amazing. And everybody else is turned off, that's fine. But for people who are have a high level of integrity, that are authentic, that care about making a difference in the world, I wouldn't have been able to attract those people had I not gone on that journey, right? Because where I was coming from was not that world.
Yeah. So I'm kind of the opposite in that I worked out of college and even out of grad school, higher degree, all this kind of stuff. I went and I worked at camps and I lived out of my truck and did all that kind of stuff and started my own company in nonprofit. And I did that up until I was about 40. Then got the opportunity to go inside a large corporate doing leadership and organizational development, worked inside corporate for a decade and then came back out. So that I think it really changes your perspective when you go in. So there's a lot of people who are inside the corporate world who don't know any different.
Right.
And that's fine. I can, wonderful people I know who do that. But I was told about halfway through my large org experience, John, you don't belong inside.
Right.
And I didn't. It took me 5 years to really internalize that. So, tell me about what you're doing right now. What's your current endeavor?
Right. So I am helping entrepreneurs a lot in the service-based industry. So educators, speakers, authors, coaches, consultants to build expert authority businesses. So rise above the noise, plant those seeds to have a really successful business. And the strategies I teach are unique in that it's not about the short-term gains, but really about the long-term profitability and impact.
Tell me about what is an expert authority business, just so that everybody knows and clear.
Right. So a lot of the coaches and consultants, they might leave the corporate world. They want to start their own business, but they're not really sure what to focus on. So they become generalist. They start downloading course after course. Okay, maybe I'm going to, maybe I'll do life coaching. Maybe I'll do social media management. Oh, I'm going to build funnels. I'm going to, start an Amazon store. So their energy becomes dispersed. And they try to learn a new thing, not how to market what they already have, but they try to acquire new skills and market it. And what happens is there's so much noise out there, and I know we're going to talk about that they start to drown in a sea of noise, right? Versus going all in and saying, you know what, these are my innate gifts. These are the skills that I've acquired over the past 2 decades of my life. This is the experiences that I brought out in my job. This is the education I have. This is my genius, and I'm going to focus and go all in on building a business around that and that alone. Your edge.
So tell me, I'm curious about your take on what defines expertise and what defines authority.
Yeah. So expert authority is given, not taken. Right. So expert is when you are seen, there's a shift from being a generalist to a specialist. You're seen as someone who has a body of knowledge above the generalist. Authority is when you go even beyond that, and now you have become known. It is given to you that you are the authority in that space. So when you think about like Dan Kennedy, that would be, one, or Russell Brunson for the Clickfunnels community. The authority is the next level up. So first you have to specialize and build your expert business so that you have that body of knowledge and people see you. That is the marketing person. That is the leadership person. And then beyond that, the authority is then given to you. And the authority is when you walk in a room, everybody knows who you are. Everybody says, oh, this is John Maxwell. Look, it's Seth Godin. Look, that's the difference.
Yeah. I'm finding it really interesting as we have all these people who we think are experts or authority, but they're in our circle.
Right.
And it's really interesting as you jump into different circles. I was just at a conference this past weekend where I was expected to know certain people in the room, and I had no clue who they were. But you don't know fill in the blank, and you don't know fill in the blank. It was really interesting to me how the circles of expertise and authority are growing smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right.
So like you can be an expert and an authority in a very small group of people. But as soon as you step outside that, and I experienced that myself. I mean, there was a time when I would have been considered an expert and authority in a circle I thought was pretty big. But as I explore, I realized that wow, it doesn't diminish my expertise.
Right.
You can be really, really good at what you do, but if you're not known in that circle, it's just a challenge to get known.
Yes. Absolutely. But the good thing is we've seen, like you said, it's getting smaller and smaller, the emergence of micro influencers. So you don't have to be the influencer with 1 million followers who can't even sell a t-shirt. You can actually become a micro influencer, highly relevant to a small group of people and build a 7 or 8 figure business.
Yeah, that's Seth Godin's perspective of the smallest viable audience stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. I have so many questions along that line, but I think we'll get into that a little bit later. Tell me a little bit about describe your avatar, your customer that you are really you are the expert and you are the authority for that particular person. Who is that for you?
So it could be a business coach, for example, or leadership coach, and they have been struggling to try to rise above the noise online. They're probably under selling their services because they're trying to compare themselves to maybe other coaches, lifestyle success type coaches, and they may not even be marketing to the right people. So, one of my clients, he had a background in sales, and he's invested like $80,000 in all these different things, wrote a book that's not even relevant, developed a course, was, struggling to sell like a $3,000 sales program. And, I looked at him and I said, you were the top salesperson in your company. You don't belong coaching individuals. You belong going into 7-figure companies and helping them go to 8 figures. So we made that shift very quickly, and he was able to generate almost $400,000 in the last 9 months. So that's the kind of person, the person that has that real genius, that skill set, not the pop-up person who's been working at a coffee shop and, downloaded a life coaching course and wants to, make $500,000. Like, that's not for me. It's the people who really have education and skill set experience. They want to come to me and they want to learn how to structure, package that, position it, message it in a way that meets their skill set. So I help them raise their value, command that in the marketplace, and get known.
How do you vet that out? I mean, because there's, like you said, there's just a myriad of people out there who are, even if they go through some of the really good coaching stuff, the ICF,
right?
They walk out with this credential, and yet that's how do you vet and make sure that they have the expertise that you're looking for in a client?
Well, conversations. It all comes back to conversation. So we have an application process, and it doesn't take very long to learn whether we can help someone or not. Like, we had someone who wanted to join our program. I mean, we've had people apply that are gardeners, that are house cleaners, and they want to suddenly do all these other things. And there's plenty of programs that would happily take their money. I won't. That's not my area. So I give them the free resources, send them on their way, and they can try to figure out how to package that and do it with someone else. I really want to work with, highly skilled, highly educated people who are taking their genius to the next level. I'm not here to work with the masses. I go for quality over quantity. And I really want to work with those people who are serious. They're going to roll up their sleeves, do the work, not looking for the magic bullet, and not trying to create a business, an expert business off something that they know nothing about. Because that, one of the pillars of my program is integrity. So that our values have to be aligned in order for you to be accepted into the program.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Marshall Goldsmith and some other of these top-notch executive coaches can claim 95 to 100% effectiveness because they vet their client list so well. They won't take the contract until they've actually framed up the situation, the issue, and got a gauge of how committed they are to growth.
Absolutely.
They won't take on the coach. They won't take on that coaching client, that performer, until they've almost guaranteed that person is going to do the work.
Well, you have to be, otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure, both parties. And, people always ask, well, who's my ideal client? It's the person that gives you energy, the person that you could just talk and talk and talk and you're not going to feel drained, the person that respects you, that listens to what you have to say, that's going to implement what you're saying. Otherwise, they're going to be disgruntled. They're going to put it back on you when they just didn't do the work. And there's nothing worse than having a client that doesn't take action, and it's just like pulling teeth. So it's important to not just go for the money and to make sure it's the right fit, the right relationship.
Are there any situations that you would take a risk on somebody who maybe they don't fit the profile perfectly, but you see potential rather than already existing energy?
Yes. I definitely, I trust my gut. That's when your intuition comes into play. I've had people who were kind of new to the coaching world, but I knew based on their past experience and their drive that we could take them further faster. But if they're not a fit, just turn them away. If they're not ready, they're not ready.
So tell me, what is the biggest threat to your business right now?
I would say the biggest threat is probably other programs, right? So there's so much noise out there. There's people vying for attention. I approach my business in a very different manner than most coaching and consulting businesses. I'm not going for, again, the quick grab, sell anything. Like, I see them. I've seen these people who have far less experience than me teaching programs that are very, I don't want to say empty, but surface level. So, but
all sizzle and no steak.
all sizzle and no steak, but these people have made a lot of money and they kind of have churn and burn style. And so therefore they have huge budgets, and they're running their business. They're not vetting people. Their salespeople are very aggressive, and they're going to accept anyone. Like they would accept the house cleaner and the gardener that wanted to build a high ticket business, for example. Yeah. Those would be my biggest competitors or threat.
And just from my side of it, I'd agree, because I was introduced to you through LinkedIn. You sent me a note because you saw that I do coaching and consulting and all that. And then within an hour, I got another note that was almost verbatim from your introductory letter. And I remember I sent back to both of you guys, hey, just so you know, I just got this exact note from somebody else. And it's really hard to tell that when you have whether it's template copy or, it's really hard to navigate that cloud, the blood cloud through all the different sharks when that's out there. So yeah, I see that too. Now, let's go with the other direction here. What's your biggest opportunity right now? Where do you see the low-hanging fruit or the next best thing for you?
Well, it's two sides of the same coin. My approach to business is also my biggest opportunity. The way that I do things, it's about the long-term gains. It's about really focusing on building your credibility, teaching what you know, giving your best stuff away, getting your clients incredible results. So again, it's not for the short-term gains, it's the long-term play. So it's my biggest opportunity and also my biggest threat.
Yeah, that's the way it usually plays out.
Yeah.
So we talked, originally I wanted to talk with you because I was impressed on your take and how it stands out from a lot of the other social media marketing experts, the ones that are coming alongside people. Because I wanted to explore the concept of the attention economy. Mm-hmm. But to lead into that, what do you think about the number and quality of coaches and consultants today?
I think there's some really amazing ones out there that don't have a large social media presence. Like I'm blown away when I talk to people and I learn about their incredible intelligence and level of expertise. And then I get to hear about how much they're struggling and how they're really capped with what they're making because of how they approach business. So those people kind of get pushed to the bottom. And what you have is this emergence of the rah-rah coaching industry, again, more focused on the money, focus on maybe beauty, lifestyle, that are going out there and teaching the same thing. And I know because I've paid someone before, and luckily I got a refund, but it was a very big influencer, and I paid him to actually look at my strategy and give me some pointers about a year or two ago. And his only advice was sell the lifestyle, Jessica. And so there's a lot of that happening out there. And our reptilian brain, and survival and desire is saying, oh, I want that. And so we are drawn to buy from those people. We're drawn to say, oh, I want that handbag. Oh, I want that car. I want that woman. You see all these different people using these things that are naturally appealing, the triggers that people want: money, sex, significance, all of those things. So that is the illusion that we buy into. When we get in there and we realize that they're empty, that it's all just an illusion, then we feel like, oh, wow, why did I buy from this person? Meanwhile, you've got people who actually care and have that are more heart-centered, that want to make an impact, and that have that higher level of authenticity and integrity, but they are not selling the sex appeal, if you will. And so that is where the disconnect is, because we are competing against cat videos, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian. So our brain is going to be drawn to anything that's funny, that's sexy, that is what our brain is drawn to more and more and more. So it makes it very challenging for people who are just being real.
Yeah, and I see, this is my experience, at least limited as it is in this world, is that your attention is grabbed. You're brought into this community of people that keep on telling each other that they're important. Mm-hmm. And you've got this small group of people continuously buying each other's stuff and telling them they're important. Every once in a while, you get a new person in there. Right. And it's this, it's a cycle, it's a spin that comes in and says, come to my conference, do my mastermind, join my coaching group, and I'll join yours, and I'll speak at your conference if you speak at mine. And these again, they're micro communities and micro influencers and things like that. that create this sense of success, whether or not it's really there. And
Right.
they're making a living off each other, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I just I stepped into that world with some wonderful people who I know, and just amazingly talented people that I know. That while they seem to be expanding people's potential, it also is a limiting factor too in the way that
Right.
they're doing it.
Right. And that's why it's important to look at other platforms as well. And so I don't follow the norm, if you will. I know a lot of people built very successful businesses on Facebook, and I definitely have my presence there. But that's one thing I really love about LinkedIn, is because I feel like there is a higher level of integrity with approach to business. And I don't just want to coach a bunch of coaches who are coaching coaches. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm interested in really helping people who are actually going into companies, who are helping small businesses. You know, one of my clients is her whole business is around dementia care. She's an RN, and she goes in and she trains senior living centers. So there's so much opportunity outside of, like I said, the rah-rah coaches world. It's why I don't even call myself a coach. I'm a consultant. I'm very consultative in nature. And I love LinkedIn for that purpose.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. So I spent, before I went into the corporate world, I did consulting and coaching, and there's a really high bar in order to call yourself either of those things.
Right.
You had to have significant, not only success stories, but also credibility in your experience, your education, and your skill sets.
Right.
For both, if it was consulting specific to a business, and if it's coaching, even a higher level, because you had to be effective in any industry, in any enterprise. And there's this hugely high bar. So I go in and start doing this in a large corporation for 10 years, and we're really cool, got a lot of great opportunities to do lots of different things. And then when I came back out, all of a sudden, everybody and their brother is a coach and a consultant.
Right.
And I've stopped, just a couple months ago, I decided I'm not in that market anymore. It's not what I do. Actually, it is what I do, but it's not what I sell.
Right.
It's because I can't help but doing either of those
Of course.
whenever I go in and I'm engaged. Have you seen really talented and successful people, skilled at the business, who've built the business outside of social media?
I think so, versus in things like live events. You know, there's nothing that beats the power of in-person live events. So there's some of them, and then there's definitely the older generations, but anybody who is under 40 has really built their business, or maybe 45 has built their business on social media. So if you don't have that Rolodex, right, of contacts, if you aren't very established and have connections with the decision makers, then you have to be on social media. And interestingly enough, I have a lot of people who come to me who have the education, experience, and Rolodex, but things are shifting so quickly for them because their connections are leaving and newer people are coming in. And they come to me and say, I've got people who say, don't have any social media presence, but have a 7-figure business, and say, we know we got to figure this out. Help us figure this out. So I think in 20 years from now, maybe even 10 years from now, all the people who had those connections are going to just kind of disappear. So you have to get on this social media movement wave. I don't think that will last forever, of going, like, surviving without it.
It's really interesting to me because as one of the things that I do is build leadership and professional development programs for medium and large size organizations. And one of the things they really battle is the influence of social media and how it is a distractor rather than a focuser. And that gets into this idea of the attention economy.
Right.
Let me read this to you and get your take on it. If you're not paying, you're not the customer, you're the product.
If you're not, say it again.
If you're not paying,
right,
not the customer, you're the product.
Right.
What's your take? How do you hear that statement?
Well, I mean, we are the product of advertising dollars. I mean, that's it. That's everything is being sold to us. We can't even escape it. You can't escape it in your email. You can't escape it on Facebook. I mean, it used to be that you'd see an occasional ad. Now it's like every 4 or 5 posts you see an ad. So it's a shift in thinking that we're just getting this free information, but really it's the advertisers who are playing on and following us around and gathering intelligence and showing things that we want to buy. So you're right. We're not the customer.
And it's interesting first of all, that quote comes from the early 70s talking about broadcast television.
Amazing.
It's been around that long. I think the biggest difference is the sophistication of algorithms
Yes.
to keep and hold our attention so that, when you read a magazine, there's the end of an article, but when you're scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn, there's no natural stopping place. You just continue to scroll.
Right.
And pretty soon it's gone from 5 minutes to 50 minutes and you don't know what happened.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me about what the increasing role of influencers in this attention economy.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, showing out and sharing your message, there's two different schools of thought, right? So there's the school of thought of taking like the Gary V style, jab, jab, punch, take a bunch of content, mass produce it, chop it up, and it's about volume. And that's an interesting take because we know that people need to ramp up their content in order to be seen because there's so much competition. We also know is that content increase goes up. If you don't have the network as Gary Vee does, the engagement goes down. So the more content you put out, the more the engagement goes down. On the other side of that is put out less content, but really, really good content. And so there's opportunities in both. And it's about finding that balance, because I've tested this in my own business as well, finding that balance. But ultimately, you have to be able to gain their attention. You have to be sharing value. If you can make them laugh, even better. But there's no one way. It's a delicate balance because we know that ultimately people want more personalized content and people want more personalized relationships with the person. And I think that is why, even though Gary mass produces, he's been able to be so successful, is because he literally replies still to a lot of his like Twitter messages, which is amazing. I mean, I don't think he sleeps, but there's different schools of thought around that. But ultimately, just staying consistent is going to be key. Focusing on the relationship is going to be key. Not trying to automate everything and step back. Like, hey, just upload everything and buffer and step away. You have to be present on social media and engaging back with your audience in order to become a real influencer in any space.
How do you stay present in social media? I'm thinking and saying, how do you win social media? But it's really, how do you engage with social media without necessarily getting entrapped in it?
You have to set boundaries around your time. Really important. Like, go in there and get the work done. I mean, you can use things like the Facebook eliminator, newsfeed eliminator, I think. You can delete your apps from your phone. It's challenging. It's like, can you get in there and respond and put the content you need, and also maybe engage with some other people's stuff, because it can't just be a one-way street, and then get out of there as soon as possible. So you just have to put the boundaries on it.
Yeah, it reminds me of, when I work with executives and talking about just simple time management stuff and
Yes.
owning your inbox and treating your social media like you do your email.
Yeah.
I encourage them, especially as an executive, go on once or twice a day to your email max.
Right. Not 30 times an hour, which is what the average person does.
Yeah. Not every time you get that ding.
Ding.
That's the first thing I say is turn off all your notifications.
Yes.
That way, if you don't own your schedule, somebody else will.
Totally.
And it's like, it's amazing to me, especially younger executives have it, the older executives still are actually, they're learning the whole social media world or even just the email world.
Right.
The younger ones who were raised on it are stuck in it.
Right.
That's one of the biggest challenges, is helping people own their calendar.
Right. Absolutely. That's why you got to time block everything off, because it's going to fill up with work always. You have to put in your workout time. You have to put in your free time.
Yeah. Or, I mean, and you and I both have young kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a whole different thing. A lot of, at least what's marketed out there, doesn't account for that kid time, the family time.
Right.
Just since we're there, how does that play into, how does being a mom play into your work and your approach to helping people?
It's a huge thing. So all of the people in my program have a high level of integrity around their family values. I talk a lot about self-care. Sometimes I'll get on the phone with one of my clients and I'll say, go sit in a sauna and go get a massage. Like, that's what you need to do. So even when I hold my retreats, They fly out, I put them up in a mansion. I have all the food catered by Samar. She's amazing. I bring in either a yoga or Tai Chi, Qigong person. I bring in a massage therapist. Like, I want them to not get more information. They don't need more information. I want them to relax and enjoy the fruit of their labors. So of course we mastermind and record videos and do all kinds of awesome stuff for them, but they also get to relax. And that's a big part of it. Self-care is a huge part of, again, the long-term success. And the other thing is making sure that your relationships stay intact, because there's so many people I know who just jump to extreme levels of success, and then they all end up divorced, overweight, in a depression, because turning to alcoholism, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we did high-level communication, emotional, social competency workshop, 3 days, and we also partnered with California Health and Longevity Institute, and they looked over our menu. We did all their meals for them. We did all their snacks, and instead of doing like danishes and donuts and pizza and stuff like that, we had like parfaits for all the snacks, smoothies were healthy.
Yes.
We also brought in and we created a series of movement videos to do in the middle of the course. So every 90 minutes they were up and moving, whether it was a break or just stretching.
Right.
And it was really interesting because after doing tons and tons of corporate workshops like this, multi-day, this was the first time we had people at the end of 3 days going, man, I really thought I was going to be exhausted after this, but I feel like I have more energy than when I came. Mm-hmm. And we're talking 8 hours of input. It wasn't just stand and deliver type stuff. We did really experientially, plus evening programs about health. Mm-hmm. And they walked out like focused. They complained that we weren't giving any meat. Or like not a big steak or anything like that. But ultimately they walked out going, wow, so important, especially if for people who are doing workshops or courses or things out there, you will get better engagement and better retention if you care about their physical part.
Absolutely.
As you're doing the intellectual and interpersonal stuff.
Yes, you have to do both. And we've all been to workshops and events where it was just garbage, I've been to events where I was told, hey, always buy peanut M&Ms because it can give them energy and keep them awake. And I said, no, I'm never going to do that. It's like, maybe we'll have some Kind bars or something, but I'm not going to have peanut M&Ms.
Yeah. And to me, if it's not part of the agenda, like you don't tell them that there's going to be a health wellness component to it. I tend to, if it's just like I do a coaching workshop or a personal development workshop, I'll have the healthy alternatives there. And then just a few of not the candy bars, but the hard candy or stuff like that. And then they feel like they're not being deprived, but they experiment with wow, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Maybe I will have a banana and yogurt rather than a Danish.
Right. Totally.
What do you think are some of the dangers that this attention economy? Now, normally people hear that as a negative. Mm-hmm. And I want to explore the good, the bad, and the ugly of that right now, because I've got some impact that it's had in some of the people that I work with, good, bad, and indifferent. But what do you see as the good, the bad, and the ugly of moving more towards where attention is a limited and valuable economy?
Well, I mean, the good news is it allows you to really connect with people that you are supposed to connect with, like you and I. You were driving, you said you saw my LinkedIn Live and you're listening to me in the car.
Yeah, he listened, didn't watch.
Listening, not watch, just listening. And the good is you heard something different and therefore you followed me. So that's an amazing thing, because you now have the power of discernment. And that's what I think is a positive with the attention economy, is that you now have the ability, because there is so much noise, is that if you are really showing up as yourself and you're not just showing up with the silly videos and all of these things we see on LinkedIn, you're showing up as yourself and actually connecting and giving real value, that people are becoming more and more discerning and they're going to gravitate to you. The bad news is we're always going to be distracted, especially in moments of weakness, when we're tired, when we're sick, when maybe we're having something bad something goes wrong in your day and you pick out your phone and now you're 3 hours into social media, right? The ugly is that sometimes you're going to be drawn to buy from people that are simply selling the lifestyle that may be actually totally broke because they're renting everything and And you see a lot of this go on. So that could be the ugly, is that maybe you accidentally invest in someone that that isn't genuine and isn't going to move the needle forward in your life or business.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, so when you're talking about, I've stopped talking about leadership development because, I do talk about it, but I'd rather talk about professional development, because the same competency sets apply if you're an individual contributor to if you're CEO. There's just a different context to which you apply it. And one of the big things is, as a professional, what you're really good at is helping focus attention on the right things. And one of the things we really battle on is distraction. And, the Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube distractions actually dissipate energy rather than focus it.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest battles, that how do we take this media, which is so pervasive and so powerful and tends to not be used for good, as we're talking about. How do you influence your client base to be responsible with this superpower of social media?
Well, I mean, what I teach is not the other stuff. So what I teach them is value-based, right? Credibility. My main thing I have to do with my clients when they come to me is get them focused. Okay. I say distraction is your biggest bottleneck to any entrepreneur and CEO, right? So I want to get them focused. I want them to shut off. And I would recommend this to most people watching. Only follow like 2 people. Everything else you got to shut off.
So you and somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because otherwise you're going to get distracted and I have to pull them back. And so it is a battle sometimes with my clients where I'm having to pull them back. Like, you don't need to be doing this. You're spreading yourself too thin. You also have to learn how to say no a lot. Okay. Because as you grow your business, all these people are going to want to jump on the bandwagon. They're going to say, hey, let's partner. Let's do this thing. Or I want you to come speak here. And I want you to do all these things. Why don't you try this instead? And it's going to be very challenging because, number one, we love that, like, we're in the light and we're getting all these opportunities. And number two, it's going to be like, hey, we're, as entrepreneurs, we're naturally creative and we love to do a lot of different things. Right? It's fun. We love to create, but you have to say no, because you need to look at what is the ROI of what I'm currently doing. And if my goal is to make this one program very successful, then if I say yes to all these other things, it takes time and attention away from the thing that I'm doing. And so really what I tell people to go and do when they start a business is go all in on 1 or 2 offerings. And when you get to 7 figures, then you can start to launch courses and membership sites and all that, if you even choose to. When you see the level of complexity that it takes, you probably won't want to, but you have to focus.
I got to say, so one of my roles, this was, 2007, when I went into the corporate world, where that's where online courses were just getting more sophisticated than click-through, PowerPoints, So I was involved in, number one, helping our company understand how do you turn those into true learning experiences, not just click-throughs, not just whatever, but how do you make sure that those result in the change behavior that you intend?
Yes.
And then also, so there was that piece of the electronic piece. And then there was the webinar piece that all these people who were really experienced in stand and deliver type programs had to change how they would deliver in a webinar format.
Right.
And that was a big breakthrough for them. And then the next one is going through a cohort with blended mixed learning, where you have online courses plus weekly or biweekly webinars. And then you had to turn into a moderator, not just the online presenter,
right?
And all these different skill sets. So I'm doing that inside. And when you're inside an organization, you don't have to sell it. It just has to work. If it doesn't work, it dies.
Right.
And if it does work, then you get the attention of the field and the people who are actually using it.
Right.
So I go outside that world. This was about 3 years ago. And I'm thinking, okay, I did all this stuff. And then I'm finding the online courses, there are some that are really, really good.
Right.
Most of them are designed to sell. They're not designed to work.
Exactly.
And I see basically, and I'll oversimplify it, but there are YouTube playlists.
Right.
Without necessarily, and they might have a download that goes along with it, but they're not designed for behavior change. They're not designed, they're designed to make you feel okay that you got something, and you might even watch a few of them.
Right.
but it goes back to the early days of e-learning, which was you have 80-90% attrition rate, which means that only 10 or 20 make it through.
That's right. They say it's no more than 15 to 20% actually have any courses completed. And so this is what I tell people. The transformation is not in the information. It's not. We're inundated with information. We're on information overload. We can't even take in the information. The transformation lies in your time, your energy, the feedback that happens, the interaction, the connection, the relationship. That's where true transformation happens. And so that's why I steer away from courses. And that's what's so beautiful about coaching, consulting, educating, when you can have them interacting in groups. That's where the power is. It's not me standing up in front of a room saying, let me talk about relevancy. Let me talk about community. It's when they break into groups and have that experiential moment. And that's the power of coaching and consulting. That's where the true power is.
But it's also, you can design courses that way.
You can, absolutely.
The problem is the model that people use is a stand and deliver. The concept, and I'll use a couple of cups here, you have the pitcher and cup approach where, oh, look here, I have a full cup. I'm going to pour it. I'm not going to mix it up my coffee. I would never do that. But it's this inform where you take the stuff that you have and pour it into the form of somebody else. And that's the model that we have because that's how we've experienced it. But if we look at any course or any interaction that changed us, that not just put stuff into our form, but changed the form that it went into, transform, it tended to be based on experience that linked to our lives.
Yes.
So the closer you can create a course that touches the way that we live our lives, the more powerful that course is going to be.
Absolutely.
I don't see people, number one, I don't see people creating that stuff too much online. And this is where I struggle, is I don't see too many people buying that stuff online in this market.
I think they do. They just call it a coaching program rather than a course.
Okay.
That's when you get the accountability. That's when you get the group calls and the dynamic, the hot seat, the live events and all of that. But courses in general are very much information, and that's it.
Right.
It's pouring that information into you, which we know we're not going to retain, and it's going to leave you with more questions and answers.
Yeah. And that's where
buying courses, everybody.
Yeah. Unless it's yours or mine. No, actually, I don't sell.
I pulled all my courses down. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I realize that my market isn't the LinkedIn or Facebook crowd. What I do is I work with organizations that have really already great training operations, but don't necessarily have the expertise or headcount to do professional or leadership development stuff.
Sure.
And that's where it's essential. If you've got a national or international organization, you have to find a way to get the material in the right mode to the right place. And you can't,
absolutely.
They will not bring everybody in for live in-person conferences.
Right.
Unless there's something really special about it. So you've got to figure out a way to get and courses and cohort programs and all that are really big, and they'll buy the ones that work from a corporate standpoint. But if they see that it's just a click through or that it's just a series of videos, less so interested in it.
Right, because they know it's not going to get the results. That people need to have the feedback. They need to have the relationship that, okay, is this working for me? I want to share this story. How would this apply to me in this situation? We need that method of learning, not just watch a webinar.
Who is entrepreneurship for and who is not for?
Entrepreneurship is with the go-getters. Like if you don't want it, if you're not hungry enough, you will just frustrate yourself and you might as well go get a job. It's for risk takers as well. So you have to be able to put everything on the line, because in entrepreneurship, there's huge gains and there's huge losses. It's part of it. And if you're not willing to risk, if you're somebody who likes to kind of stay in your own lane, you like that consistency. Okay, I know I'm getting this much a month. I know my health insurance is covered and all of that. Then entrepreneurship is not for you. Entrepreneurship is like, you're going to roll the dice, you're going to play big, you're going to take action, and you're going to win big. And sometimes you'll lose. Yeah. And you have to be okay with that.
That's where the stories come from.
Yeah. I have great stories.
Yeah. That's one way of putting it. Tell me this, what one or two things would you tell somebody who is considering leaving their established position and stepping into creating their own world?
Well, first of all, you need to find a mentor. Absolutely. And it needs to be the person who's at the right place at the right time. You don't want to get someone who's so far gone that they can't help you. Okay. And you also don't want to get, like some people say, someone that's just a few steps ahead of you. No, you don't need to get that person either. Find someone that you resonate with, you like their content, you've checked their testimonials, they've helped people similar to you and your skill set get the results that they're promising. Do not get sucked into courses or illusion, right? You really want to make sure you vetted the people. The other thing is make a plan. What do you really need? Not the desired number, but what do you need to cover your costs so you can reverse engineer your business? This is going to be really important. So if your hard costs are $8,000 a month, then you need to make sure that you've built your program and accounted for your expenses and taxes to exceed that number.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen out there is people go, well, that means that I've got to charge such and such an hour or such and such for a course. And I don't know. And the fact of the matter is, you look at any business, whether it's entrepreneurial or not, only 40 to 50% of the income goes towards payroll or goes towards personnel. The rest go towards overhead and operating expenses.
Yes.
And you might think that you can cut down your overhead, but you'll never cut it down to less. Your overhead's always going to be 30 to 40% at least, and usually 50 or 60.
Right. Yeah. It's going to cost more than you might imagine. So be sure to have a little nest egg set aside, or be able to get a line of credit loan from your bank, something, because there's technology that you're going to need. There's definitely mentorship you're going to need. There's going to be expenses that come up that you haven't imagined. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you can't start generating income right away, because you can, but you just need to, again, not be so fixed on that number. And so I don't like when people come to me at a last resort, putting all their hopes and prayers on me. You got to save me, Jessica. Like, that's not a good situation. It's hard to create. It's hard to create from that space. It's hard to draw and attract clients from that space, the necessity, the desperation. So it's really good if you can say, I have X amount, I budgeted this amount of time before I need to start generating revenue. And you're coming from a place of, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to be diligent with my time, but I'm not coming to you as a last resort. That's what you don't want to do.
Yeah, I found, like, especially for my organizational stuff, the organizations that need it the least because they're most in tune are the ones who come to me. Yes. And it's not that they still need it. It's just that they've realized early on that they know how to run their business, but they know how to do their business, but they don't know how to create their organization.
Yes, that makes sense.
And those are the ones that come in early on. So I appreciate that. Another quick question. What book or resource have you gifted the most, like that you give out, other than your own resources?
Honestly, I give out Expert Secret from Russell Brunson, the creator of Clickfunnels. And the reason why is he breaks it down in such simple and easy to digest terms, which a lot of it's not a typical business book written by MBA and full of heady statistics. It's very simplified, understanding how you move people from watching your content to ultimately buying your stuff online. Now, his is really taught in a webinar format, but it can be applied, the principles of it, to selling on social media, to selling from stage. It's really brilliant.
Well, one last question. Is there a bit of technology that you really have come to depend on, whether it's an app or a website or even just, a microphone or whatever? What bit of technology do you think is the best thing that you use right
now? I think the best thing we use is Asana. So my project management tool, it is our information hub. It is it's how we ensure that things get ticked off the list. It's how we track everything. So I use that in conjunction with Slack, but Asana is really how I communicate with my entire team. There's a lot of moving parts, so having a central digital hub is really important for us.
That's great. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for giving me this valuable time. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I think it's given my dozens of viewers something really important to think about. So
awesome. Thanks, John.